Exposed. My son's fiancée refused my presence at their wedding, a surprising $50,000 request. Lisa's heart raced as she stood in her small living room, the glow from the afternoon sun highlighting the fine lines of worry etched on her brow. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. A wedding gift? $50,000? She had sputtered in disbelief, her words barely making sense even to her anxious mind. The air in the room thickened as she clutched the phone, her mind spinning with confusion and hurt. Wasn't love supposed to be enough? Raising Jake alone had never been easy, but the values she instilled in him, hard work, humility, and integrity, were constant reminders of their modest life. Why was it different for Emily? Lisa paced, utterly perplexed. Memories flooded back, late nights at the hospital, the myriad sacrifices she made, the way their laughter filled the home even on tight budget nights. Jake was supposed to transition into a world where those principles meant something, where love wasn't measured by a price tag. The concept of wealth, once an abstract worry, now formed a stinging reality. Days passed, and shadows of doubt loomed larger with each tick of the clock. Every encounter with the townspeople who had supported her through thick and thin made the divide between her and Emily's affluent world coalesce into an agonizing chasm. People saw her as a dedicated nurse, carrying the weight of lives in her steady hands, and they admired her unwavering commitment as a mother. But what would they think now? What would Jake think? Would he believe Emily if she said families could only love when the financial status aligned? Underneath her composed exterior, a tempest churned, a flicker of anger intertwined with a profound sadness. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the wedding day loomed closer, Lisa found herself hurtling toward a crossroads. She needed to discover who Emily truly was beneath the surface. The Southern charm, the investments into lavish themes, and their pristine lifestyle lurking just on the edge of her perception. The truth gnawed at her. She felt compelled to protect Jake from a world that only seemed willing to cost him his values. Her pulse quickened as thoughts clashed, alternating between heated frustration and desperate longing to understand. Moments of quiet would evaporate with memories of her son's enthusiasm as he spoke about Emily, funneling into anxiety about whether luxury would taint his happiness. One evening, during a close confrontation with Emily, everything came into painful clarity. Power dynamics hidden beneath layers of social custom were suddenly palpable. This wasn't merely about a wedding, it was a proclamation of status, legacy, and the foundational rivalries of families she barely knew. The pieces began to fit together, and with them, a deep sense of dread whispered within. Instead of celebrating love, she was staring down the barrel of desperation. The floor felt unstable beneath her, but while doubt clawed at her insides, she sensed a deeper truth waiting to be unearthed. As she turned away, just as shaken as she was resolved to confront Jake, the doorbell rang, breaking her contemplation. The heirloom, rumored in her family's whispered stories, lay wrapped in beauty, just waiting to disrupt her steady world. With a tremor in her hand, Lisa knew that this new discovery might reveal bonds she'd never even imagined. But would they bind them together or pull them further apart? She inhaled sharply, every nerve ending alive with a decision looming closer as she faced the truth of a legacy she thought she knew. The time for confrontation was drawing near, and with it, the clock ticked down to the wedding, the air thick with unresolved tension and the ever-present question, could loyalty really survive the weight of such expectations? With the heirloom now resting on the coffee table, Lisa stared at it as if it were a window to the past. A shimmering brooch, passed down through generations, it was a symbol of resilience and continuity. Each delicate curve held stories of women who had navigated love, sacrifice, and disappointment just as she was now. But today, it felt like more than just a cherished family memento. It was a weight dragging her toward a confrontation she both dreaded and knew was necessary. Emotions clashed like thunder, pulling her in opposite directions. On one hand, the brooch could serve as a bridge to Emily, a gesture of good faith, an offering from a mother determined to be part of her son's life, even as tensions boiled. On the other hand, it represented everything she was trying to protect, the principal values of humility and love, undiluted by monetary expectations. This was not merely an object, it was a profound declaration of her identity and beliefs. She picked up the brooch, envisioning how it would look adorning Emily's gown. The thought made her stomach twist. What would that gesture signify? Would it communicate acceptance or imply unwillingness to confront the deeper issue at hand? If she offered it, would she lose the battle of values she held dear, risking the very fabric of their relationship? Each possible outcome ran through her mind like an unending parade of uncertainties. In that moment, a decision began to crystallize. She could no longer remain a passive spectator in this unfolding drama. Lisa needed clarity and a voice, not just for Jake's sake, but for herself. Mentally steeling herself, she envisioned the conversation she would have with Jake. It would not be about choosing sides, but rather an exploration of values cherished over material realities. Perhaps revealing the brooch would guide not just Emily, but Jake toward an understanding that their family legacy wasn't tied to extravagance, but to love, hard work, and commitment. With trembling hands, she placed the heirloom carefully back on the table and took a step back, as if it had burned her. It wasn't the sign she was hoping for. It was merely a stepping stone. Lisa needed to confront Emily again, but this time she would do so with a clarity she had lacked before. The next wedding planning meeting loomed, and she would make it clear. Love was not a transaction, but a bond forged through understanding and respect, a lesson she had learned with blood, sweat, and tears. As Lisa practiced the words she would say, alone in the dim light of the evening, the reality of her situation became starkly clear. The wedding was not just a merging of two lives, but a collision of values, expectations, and traditions. Steeling herself for the tough conversations ahead, she prepared to face not just Emily, but whatever truths lay lurking beneath the surface. Gathering her strength, she resolved that commitment to her values would be the foundation of her approach. Jake deserved a mother who stood firm in her beliefs, who fought for the integrity she had instilled in him over the years. The time had come to face Emily not only as a mother-in-law, but as a woman defined by her values. As she sat in the quiet, feeling more insightful than anxious, a small but nagging thought emerged. Would the meeting extend beyond the wedding plans? Would she also uncover layers of Emily's past and motivations that had her second-guessing her intentions? The stakes were immeasurable, but Lisa was ready to expose the deeper truths that might just illuminate their path forward. Determined, she took a deep breath, the air filling her lungs like a promise as she gathered herself for the confrontation ahead. Little did she know that what awaited her would challenge her perceptions in ways she had never anticipated. As the day of the meeting approached, Lisa woke with a sense of purpose that cut through her lingering fear. The sun poured into her kitchen, warming the space as she prepared her favorite breakfast, 2 eggs and toast. Cooking felt therapeutic, each action a repetition of routine that grounded her. Yet, beneath the surface of routine, the anticipation of the confrontation simmered. She practiced her words softly, the cadence of her intentions solidifying into a clear message. "Emily, we can approach this together," she said aloud, contemplating how her voice would hold firm. She needed to express love without being overpowered by the emotional weight of the brooch, or the tensions that had grown warped between them. This clarity invigorated her, fortifying her resolve. Moments later, she found herself in front of the mirror, scrutinizing her reflection. The gray in her hair glistened in the morning light, a testimony to the resilience she carried like a badge. It served as a reminder of the struggles she had endured, a visual embodiment of all the complexities that life had hurled her way. In that instant, she felt the weight of the heirloom shift from its physical form to her very being, a connection that transcended generations. The meeting loomed ahead, each tick of the clock amplifying the stakes. The idea of addressing Emily without confrontation sent another wave of determination shooting through her. She couldn't just settle for a mere exchange of pleasantries. She would delve deeper. But how to broach the topic of hidden motivations without escalating tensions further? That would be a delicate dance. More than just a confrontation, this felt like a purposeful expedition into understanding what lay beneath Emily's polished exterior. Every interaction until now had left her with a lingering distrust, an unsettled feeling that there were forces fueling Emily's behavior lurking just beyond reach. Clarity sharp as a knife was crucial. Arriving at the meeting space in a park, Lisa sought a tranquil atmosphere juxtaposed against her inner turmoil. As she approached the designated table, she caught sight of Emily. Her poised demeanor stood in stark contrast to the emotional storm brewing inside Lisa. The deep breaths became a precursor to the intensity sure to unfold. "Hi, Lisa," Emily greeted, an edge of uncertainty tinged in her voice, as though she sensed the tension between them. "Thanks for meeting me," Lisa replied, resisting the urge to let her emotions spill into the openness of the moment. They exchanged pleasantries, but the atmosphere felt charged with unspoken words, like a tension knotting firmly in the space between them. Almost instinctively, she felt her hand reach for the brooch, but she pulled it back, reminding herself it wasn't about the artifact, but rather the ideology it presented. This time, her voice was clear. "Emily, I've given our previous conversations a lot of thought. I understand there's a lot on your plate with the wedding, but I believe we need to talk about the values driving this, our family's legacy and the essence of love." Emily's brow furrowed, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. Forcing openness had its risks, especially for Lisa, driven by the fear of shattering both her son's happiness and the delicate framework they had just started to build. "What do you mean?" Emily asked, an almost defensive edge creeping into her tone. Lisa took a deep breath, her heart synced with the gravity of her intentions. "What I mean, Emily, is that love cannot be bought or manipulated. We need to be transparent about who we are, what we want, and what truly matters." An uncomfortable silence stretched, prompting an exploration of unexamined truths. Lisa's pulse quickened as she sensed an opening, but she also recognized the heavy pressure of expectations that loomed over them both. Would Emily mirror that same commitment Lisa so fiercely valued? The questions swirled in her mind as she quietly prepared for the conversation that could alter their futures. Uncertainty lingered in the air, ripe with potential for unforeseen revelations. She had stepped into the arena, armed with convictions that would either elevate their connection or threaten everything they held dear. And just as Lisa was about to press further, Emily looked at her, a mixture of emotions reflecting in her eyes. "There's something I need to tell you." Lisa's heart raced as she realized this was it, the moment where clarity would either shatter or create a new reality between them. What would the truth reveal, and would it bind them closer together or drive an even deeper wedge? With her heart thundering in her chest, Lisa leaned in slightly, prepared to embrace the revelation that could change everything. She studied Emily's face, searching for hints of honesty or hesitation. The young woman's composure, usually so polished, seemed to crack just a fraction at that moment. "Okay," Lisa urged gently, her voice steady even as her insides twisted with anxiety. "I'm listening." Emily glanced down at her hands, momentarily lost in their clasped grip. Lisa's eyes followed her gaze, noticing how tightly she held herself. It was a position of both defense and contemplation. Then, after what felt like an eternity, Emily let out a shaky breath and looked up, resolve replacing uncertainty in her expression. "It's about the wedding," she began, her tone shifting as she laid her cards on the table, "and the financial expectations tied to it. There's more to the story than you know. I didn't want to bring it up, especially considering how you feel about tradition and legacy." Lisa felt as though she had entered a space of friction. Every word Emily uttered compressed the carefully cultivated atmosphere of their meeting. "What do you mean?" There was a hint of incredulity in her voice, underscored by a thread of protectiveness. Emily's shoulders relaxed slightly, but her gaze remained firm. "My family has certain expectations for weddings. It's not just about the ceremony, it's about the investment, the significance, the status it brings. They expect a certain level of contribution. There's a $50,000 fine for the venue, for the decorations, for everything that comes with it. And honestly, I can't meet that on my own." The words struck Lisa with the force of a revelation. The brooch felt heavy in her pocket, the embodiment of a legacy that now seemed bankrupt in the face of these sobering financial realities. "But that's insane," she exclaimed softly, the weight of disbelief thickening her voice. "Have you discussed this with my son? Does he know about this demand?" Emily nodded, a flicker of frustration crossing her features. "He does, but he thinks we can handle it, that his parents will just help us get there. I can't expect him to understand everything about my family's expectations. I didn't grow up with the same values as he did." Lisa's mind raced as the pieces began to conjoin in a chaotic puzzle. The legacy she had stresses to uphold now bounced against Emily's pressing reality. Was love really negotiating in front of monetary expectations, familial pressures, and intergenerational misunderstandings? "Your values," Lisa echoed, tasting the bitterness in the words. "Are we talking about love, or are we talking about maintaining appearances? What does your family value, Emily? It seems to me that we're exchanging one kind of authenticity for another, merely shifting masks." The atmosphere crackled, and Lisa could feel a palpable change. Emily shifted in her seat, anxiety radiating from her like electricity. She had never seen her like this, emotional, raw, exposed. Up until now, she had appeared perfect, unassailable. But here they were, standing at the intersection of tradition and authenticity, staring into an abyss of contradictions. "Maybe I am worried about the wrong things. Maybe there's something deeper I have to confront, something I've buried," Emily confessed, her voice almost a whisper. Lisa leaned forward, her mind racing. "What do you mean deeper?" But before Emily could respond, the brief crack that had formed in her armor began to seal back up. She straightened her posture, almost feigning composure, yet Lisa caught the glint of something unresolved in her eyes. Fear, regret, a burgeoning realization. "Maybe I shouldn't have said anything," Emily mumbled, her gaze dropping to the table. "I should have thought it through more." Lisa felt a wave of urgency wash over her. They were teetering on the edge of a significant breakthrough. Would Emily retreat back into her polished shield, or could this be the moment when real dialogue began, where masks fell and a foundation for their shared future could begin to take shape? "Emily," Lisa said carefully, each word measured with intention, "we can build something real. But it's only going to happen if we are honest, with ourselves and with each other. This isn't just about money. It's about understanding each other's values." The words hung in the air as tension swelled once more. Lisa's heart raced, wondering if Emily would embrace the opportunity for deeper connection or retreat further into her own fragile world. But just as a spark of hope ignited, Emily pulled back, a guarded expression returning. "I need time to think," she said sadly, and Lisa knew that time could either be their best ally or their worst enemy. What would Emily ultimately decide? More importantly, how could Lisa ensure her own values remained intact in this shifting landscape of love and legacy? They were at a precipice, yet clarity was as elusive as ever. And as Emily stood to leave, Lisa's mind raced with questions. What more was unsaid, hidden beneath the surface? It became painfully clear that the answers would demand courage and the willingness to face not only each other, but the ghosts of their family's expectations, too. Lisa sat alone at the table after Emily left, speechless. The echo of their conversation reverberated in her mind, gnawing at her resolve and challenging her perceptions. She glanced at the brooch tucked in her pocket, a tangible reminder of her past and the legacy she painstakingly tried to uphold. But now, the weight of it felt like an anchor, dragging her deeper into uncertainty. The initial shock had morphed into a sense of urgency. Emily's words lingered. Were they really preparing themselves for a marriage or merely a transaction to meet familial obligations? Lisa took a deep breath, needing clarity amidst the chaos. Their exchange had unearthed fears she hadn't anticipated confronting, the fear that tradition might blind them to true connection, love subsumed by expectations. As she leaned back into the chair, Lisa began to deliberate her path forward. She had always been the one to encourage her son to take bold risks, to reach for authenticity over the comfortable establishment. Yet here she was, on the verge of losing sight of her own values, trapped in the expectations that had saturated her family for generations. She recalled her own marriage vows and how they had been a mixture of idealism and societal demands. Could she guide her son through Emily's intricate expectations without compromising her own beliefs? The posturing she often witnessed, performative love in place of genuine emotion, swirled in her thoughts. Clarity began to emerge, but it required active participation on her part. Standing up abruptly, she moved toward her desk and sat down to draft a letter to Emily. Her hands hovered over the keyboard, considering how she could express the complexities of what they faced without escalating more misunderstandings. Words created a structure to navigate the disarray. "Dear Emily," she began, typing slowly, "I understand the pressure that weighs on you. You mentioned that there are deeper things you've buried, and I want to explore those with you in a safe space. These aren't just about the wedding costs or societal norms. It's about crafting a relationship that reflects who you truly are, unfettered by outside expectations." Having calmed her thoughts, Lisa remembered something pivotal, confronting her own beliefs arching back to her upbringing. The unyielding traditions that had governed her decisions now felt like chains rather than guiding posts. This was not just Emily's struggle. It was an inheritance Lisa had carried unknowingly, one that she was determined to dissect. "Perhaps," she typed, "we can find a middle ground that honors your family's wishes while allowing you to express your own identity. How can we unsettle this expectation without losing the beauty of what you and my son are building? I'd like to help reshape this narrative." Once finished, she read the words she'd crafted, her heart racing with both excitement and trepidation. This was a pivotal moment. Lisa understood now that it wasn't solely about guiding Emily or her son through this maze, but also discovering her own footing. As she hit send, a mix of anxiety and determination filled her. The choice to act, to communicate openly rather than retreating into comfort, would serve as her foundation in this unfolding drama. But even as she felt a sense of empowerment, doubts crept in. What if Emily saw her communication as interference? What if she misinterpreted Lisa's intentions? The day pressed on, yet Lisa felt an urgency to resolve her inner turmoil. She decided it was time to engage her son and initialize a dialogue to ensure he understood all dimensions of this impending union, a union that was growing more complex by the minute. The phone rang as Lisa prepared to dial. She felt an electric pulse as the line connected. Would her son be receptive? Would he recognize the gravity of the financial expectations overshadowing the love he thought was all that mattered? As the call connected, she steeled herself, knowing that confronting him would reveal not just their family's legacy, but perhaps the very truth of what it meant to love authentically in a tangled world. The truth was waiting to be uncovered, and in a moment the layers might peel back, revealing what truly lay beneath. The phone rang with a crispness that sliced through the noise of Lisa's swirling thoughts. Each ring echoed in her mind, intertwining with her growing anxiety. Would her son understand the weight of her concerns? Would he appreciate the depth of what was truly at stake? Not just his happiness, but the very foundation of their family's legacy? Hello? A warm, familiar voice broke through the static of her hesitations. "Ben," she said, forcing herself to maintain a calm tone. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Not at all, Mom. Just wrapping up some chores. What's up?" He sounded cheerful, oblivious to the storm brewing in her heart. "Can we talk? It's about you and Emily. I think we need to discuss some things." It was a vulnerable request, revealing her readiness to confront not just Ben, but her own built-up fears and doubts. She took a steadying breath, aware that every word she chose would carry implications far beyond their immediate conversation. "Sure, what's on your mind?" His tone shifted, curiosity piquing mixed with a hint of concern. "I had a conversation with Emily recently," she began, gauging his reaction. Silence loomed on the other end. "It sounds like there are deeper implications to your marriage that need addressing, and I'm afraid some of them might be sourced from family expectations, especially regarding financial commitments." "Emily? Yeah, she is a little stressed about the planning. It's a big deal." Ben's voice trailed, uncertainty creeping in. "I get that," Lisa interjected gently. "But I want you to consider whether these stresses are born out of love or obligation. Are you marrying because you truly want to, or is it because of the perceived pressures?" A quiet moment stretched, thickening the tension. Lisa's heart beat faster, sensing that she was navigating uncharted waters, pulling her son toward deeper introspection. I hadn't really thought about it that way," Ben finally replied. "It's just, we thought we had it under control. I love Emily." "Loving her isn't in dispute," Lisa countered softly, her voice steady. "But I want you to see beyond the surface. Are you both prepared to define your relationship on your terms? Do you think about what really matters rather than just fulfilling expectations?" Ben sighed, the weight of her words settling in. "Sometimes I feel like we've got to impress everyone, especially our families, but I don't know how to challenge that. It's just how it's done, isn't it?" "Maybe it shouldn't be," Lisa urged, her resolve fortifying her clarity. "This isn't merely about throwing a wedding. It's about the marriage you both envision. Let's rethink what that looks like together. You need to be clear with Emily about how you truly feel." "I do want that." His voice tremored slightly. "It's just harder than it seems. I don't want to hurt her." Lisa's heart ached at his honesty. "But think about this. Isn't it more painful to continue on a path that feels inauthentic? You owe it to yourselves to confront these truths together." Silence ensued, a moment ripe with possibility. The conversation had opened a glimmer of hope. They were confronted by the truth that had lain dormant under layers of expectations, his loyalty to family traditions clashing with the burgeoning need for genuine emotional connection. "Okay," he finally replied, determination lacing his voice. "I'll talk to her. I need to find a way to express my fears. And you're right, we might need to rethink some things about the wedding." As they exchanged farewells, Lisa felt a rush of empowerment. Her son's willingness to engage in this introspective dialogue signaled progress, a shift toward authenticity that was vital for both of them. But as she hung up, a deep-seated apprehension clawed at her, intertwining with her newfound confidence. What would Emily think of this burgeoning insurgence of independence? Would she interpret it as an attack on her wishes or as an opportunity for mutual growth? The fear of potential backlash loomed large. The intricate web of relationships they were entwined in could just as easily unravel as a new, promising thread began to weave itself. With a renewed sense of purpose and urgency, Lisa prepared to face Emily again. Confrontation was inescapable, but so was the change she envisioned. In that moment, she understood that discovering truth often required navigating uncomfortable spaces. The next conversation would not only test their relationships, but might reveal a perspective on love far removed from tradition. Was she prepared to champion this new narrative, even if it meant facing resistance from Emily? As Lisa took a deep breath, she felt the tides of transformation stirring within her, a realization sparking that perhaps true love's essence was waiting just beneath the surface, ready to be uncovered through courage and honesty. What would she uncover when she stepped once again into the fray? Lisa stood in front of the mirror, her fingers brushing over the strands of hair that refused to cooperate. The reflection staring back at her was tinged with a frayed edge of anxiety, masked by a semblance of determination. The pivotal conversation with Ben had ushered in a sense of responsibility that weighed heavily on her shoulders. Today, she would confront Emily, and the prospect both exhilarated and terrified her. As she stepped into the living room, visions of Ben's earlier remarks flickered through her mind. His struggle with societal expectations pressed against her heart, igniting a fire within her. She wanted to advocate for him, to urge Emily to see the value of authenticity, of understanding one another beyond superficial demands. It felt like the stakes had been raised, not just for Ben, but for every thread woven into their dynamic. The familiar sound of Emily's laughter echoed from the kitchen, a melody that used to resonate joyfully with Lisa, but now felt different, new shades revealed by recent events. Gathering her courage, she walked toward the kitchen, where Emily was preparing lunch. The sunlight poured in, casting a warm glow around the young woman, who was blissfully unaware of the brewing storm. "Hey, Lisa," Emily greeted, turning with a smile that faltered slightly when she noticed the tightness in Lisa's demeanor. "What's up?" "We need to talk," Lisa said, aware that her words were firm, yet trembling on the edge of urgency. Emily's brow knitted together, a hint of concern breaking through her carefree aura. "Sure, what's going on?" "I had a conversation with Ben," Lisa began, watching as Emily immediately stiffened at the mention of her fiancé's name. "He's been feeling a bit overwhelmed with the wedding planning and the expectations from both families. I think it's important we address that together." Emily crossed her arms, a defensive stance that caused Lisa's heart to race. "I know it's a lot, but it's just part of the process. Everyone goes through this," she replied, her tone icy as apprehension clouded her eyes. "Emily, it's not just about the wedding day," Lisa pressed, sensing the urgency of her words. "This is about the marriage that you both want. It needs to be built on genuine love and understanding, not just fulfilling obligations." "What do you mean?" Emily challenged, her voice sharpened with irritation. "You think I'm just in this for the show? That I want a perfect Instagram photo instead of a real relationship?" "No, that's not it at all," Lisa assured her, keeping her tone steady. "I just want to encourage you both to reflect on your desires for the future. Ben is questioning whether he's doing this to make everyone else happy instead of being true to himself. And I think that's worth exploring." Emily's expression twisted into one of defiance, as if she were preparing for battle. "And what do you know about our relationship? Why are you forcing your opinions onto us? Maybe we don't need to second-guess every decision made." "Because I love my son, and I love you too," Lisa responded, keeping her voice calm, even though her insides churned. "I want what's best for both of you. If there's a chance that you're only pushing forward for the sake of tradition, then I'm here to advocate for some honesty." For a moment, silence enveloped the kitchen, distraction stemming from the tension instead of the aroma of food. Lisa could see Emily's defenses wavering, a multitude of emotions flashing across her face. But behind the youthful bravado, there was a flicker of vulnerability, fear about what such honest conversations might uncover. "What happens if we open that door and discover we're not on the same page?" Emily questioned, her voice lowered, yet revealing a soft crack in her armor. "I think you'll find out what matters most to each other," Lisa replied, her heart aching with empathy. "And whatever you uncover, it'll be a clearer foundation for both of you moving forward, one that celebrates who you really are instead of who you feel pressured to be." As Lisa awaited Emily's response, the air thickened. Would she accept this invitation towards deeper understanding, or would she retreat into the familiarity of expectations that suffocated authenticity? The question loomed large between them, carrying the weight of unspoken fears and untapped potentials. The unexpected vulnerability in Emily's eyes sparked something within Lisa, a realization that perhaps this confrontation was not just about Ben's wedding. It was about illuminating paths toward genuine connections, about teaching Emily the power of vulnerability over pride. "Maybe I haven't been fair about the pressures," Emily began, reflecting as her voice trailed into hesitation. In that moment, it was clear that the conversation was only the beginning. They were standing on the edge of something transformative, ready to delve into truths that could redefine their relationships. But would each of them find the courage to explore it fully? As Lisa considered the implications, she felt the tension shift. The air was ripe with possibility. How far would she go to advocate for her son and the woman he loved? The intricate dynamics were shifting. Would they risk it all for a change that could free them from the chains of expectation? Tomorrow, their world could look very different, if only they chose to step into authenticity together. What choice would Emily make, and how would it ripple through their lives? The moment hung in the air, laced with anticipation and the potential for upheaval. Lisa sensed Emily's reluctance to fully engage, her walls still standing firm despite the cracks that had begun to reveal deeper fears. The silence enveloped them, heavy with the weight of choices unmade. "Look," Lisa said gently, inching closer and lowering her voice. "I understand how daunting it is to confront these feelings, but avoiding them could build resentment that surfaces later, and that's not what either of you wants. I just don't want Ben to lose himself in what everyone else expects." Emily's lips pressed together, her brows furrowing as she wrestled with her response. "Are you even willing to consider that maybe I know what I want? That I'm not just following someone else's script?" Lisa felt a flash of frustration mixed with resolve. "I know you want what's best for Ben, Emily, but if you don't look beneath the surface, you could be setting both of you up for something far more complex than a wedding. Isn't it worth having that conversation now?" The question lingered between them, daring Emily to dive deeper. Lisa watched her, a mixture of desperation and hope coursing through her. She wanted to break down the barriers, to unveil the woman behind the pride and protectiveness. I've never even thought about it that way," Emily finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if everything crumbles if we start questioning things? I know we're supposed to be happy, but what if I realize we aren't?" "There's power in knowing," Lisa urged, her heart rate quickening. Each word felt like a lifeline, a chance to reframe the impending reality. "That knowledge can strengthen your bond or guide you in a different direction. Either way, wouldn't it be better in the long run?" Emily's features softened, torn between fear and desire for clarity. In this tense confrontation, Lisa recognized the subtle clenching of her fists, signs of someone grappling with their unspoken truths. The room radiated with uncertainty, thickened by the recognition that neither strategy nor tradition could offer the security they sought. Taking a moment, Lisa recalled a time when she was on the precipice of defining her own path. It had been a transformative period, fraught with choices that had forced her to examine her motivations, both in her career and personal life. What would she have given to have someone speak candidly to her then? Perhaps this was her chance to be that voice, to guide Emily. "Sometimes we must challenge the very roots of our expectations," she continued, hoping to inspire. "It's not easy, but embracing honesty is the most courageous act. You'll learn to navigate unknown waters together, whether that leads to stronger vows or parting ways." As the words settled, Lisa noticed the shift within Emily. There was a flicker, an awakening born from their dialogue. Perhaps her willingness to confront discomfort startled the younger woman, but Lisa could see it beginning to compel her toward introspection. "Okay," Emily said slowly. "I'll think about it. But how do we even begin this talk with Ben?" Lisa smiled, a rush of relief flooding through her. Start with what you've discovered here. Be open. Let him know you're ready to face whatever feelings arise. And I'll be there to support you both if you need me." Encouraged by the breakthrough, they stood poised at the brink of deeper understanding. But the bigger questions loomed larger. Would Ben be prepared for such a conversation? What if he wasn't ready to face the complexities of his emotions? And as they exchanged tentative smiles, Lisa's heart tightened with anticipation. Tomorrow could be the moment everything shifted for not just Emily and Ben, but for her as well. She would support them through this transformation, but she also felt the weight of her own choices lurking nearby. Would she truly be able to facilitate their journey toward authenticity? Or would her involvement complicate their willingness to face their fears? Somewhere in the distance, the clock ticked steadily onward, marking the time until decisions would unfold. Lisa inhaled deeply, feeling the tremors of change vibrating through her. Could this ripple effect genuinely guide them all toward a future they could embrace? She awaited their response, knowing the moment of truth was drawing near, both for Emily and herself. What awaited them in this deep dive into authenticity? Would they discover the strength to forge ahead or be swept back into the suffocation of compliance? The next morning, Lisa awoke with an uneasy sense of purpose. The sun sliced through her room, illuminating the remnants of her old self, restless nights, and the weight of unfulfilled aspirations. She went through her morning routine with the usual motions, but her thoughts were consumed by the responsibility she felt. Today could change everything for Emily, for Ben, and potentially for herself. As she dressed, Lisa replayed the previous day's conversation in her mind. She recalled the way Emily's walls had begun to tremble and the flicker of realization in her eyes. It was a tangible moment filled with possibility. That had been her spark, where fear danced hand in hand with the chance for growth, a beautiful yet terrifying space. Despite the warmth of the morning, Lisa felt a chill of anticipation as she arrived at the cafe where they had agreed to meet. The aroma of fresh coffee and baked goods mingled with the buzz of lively conversations, but Lisa found herself retreating into her thoughts. Each tick of the clock echoed her resolve to be the guiding force in Emily and Ben's lives. Yet a nagging question clawed at her. Did she truly possess the power to shift their narratives, or would she only stir the embers of confrontation into a full-blown fire? As Emily entered, her demeanor shimmered between tentative excitement and lingering anxiety. She spotted Lisa and approached with a cautious smile, visibly steeling herself for the conversation ahead. Lisa rose to meet her, offering a reassuring embrace. It was here, in these moments of connection, where Lisa felt her own defenses momentarily lower. "Thanks for being here," Emily began, her voice steadier than it had been previously. "I'm ready to talk about it, about Ben and everything." Lisa nodded, her heart swelling with hope. "Then let's take that step together. What are you feeling right now?" "I'm afraid," Emily admitted, her gaze flickering to the window as if seeking the right words from the passing world outside. "What if I ruin everything? What if we discover that all we have is a facade?" "Fear is powerful," Lisa acknowledged, leaning forward slightly. "But it also carries the potential for transformation. Is that a conversation you feel Ben can handle?" There it was, the pivotal question. Emily shifted in her seat, and Lisa could almost hear the gears of her mind turning. She could sense the internal battle, the struggle between protecting herself and seeking authenticity. "I think I need to give him a chance to surprise me. Maybe he's been waiting for this too." Lisa's chest fluttered with encouragement. She couldn't help but feel that they were now standing at the edge of something profound. "You're cultivating the dialogue he may need, but remember, it has to come from a place of honesty, even if it scares you both." "I know," Emily sighed, her eyes narrowing with focus as she began to sketch her thoughts on a napkin. It fascinated Lisa to witness how quickly her newfound determination took shape. "I should start with my fears first, I think. I need to be honest about not wanting to settle for an easy solution, even if that means risking everything." Exactly, Lisa replied, pride swelling in her chest. Name those fears and accompany them with your hopes. That balance will create the foundation you both can build upon. As Emily articulated her feelings on the paper, Lisa felt almost voyeuristic, privy to the birth of clarity from confusion. In every stroke of the pen, she sensed Emily grappling with her identity, her love for Ben, and her right to carve out her own future. The conversation flowed naturally, and Lisa found herself both inspiring and being inspired, her role gradually shifting from guide to partner in this exploration of truth. For the first time, it was clear that they were both undergoing a transformation, a deepening of their connection. However, beneath the surface, Lisa wrestled with the weight of her influence in this process. Was she equipped to help patch the cracks, or did her presence risk further destabilizing what they were trying to build? As their dialogue deepened, the connection between Emily and her fears became increasingly palpable. Lisa abruptly questioned if her efforts to support were misguided. Perhaps she wasn't just a guide in their journey, but also a catalyst for Emily's confrontation with the potential of her own choices. The weight of these realizations pressed upon her. She understood now their intersection of paths would forever alter her own trajectory. Would she be ready to face whatever emerged from this endeavor, or would it lead to a confrontation of her very own values? Suddenly, the cafe's front door swung open with a sharp wind, and Lisa turned to see Ben, stepping through with an air of determined confidence. The moment had come. Their pivotal discussion was no longer in the abstract. It was here, tangible, with all their complexities at the threshold. "Emily!" Ben called out, his voice slicing through the tension laden in the air. "There's something I need to talk to you about." Lisa's heart raced, and the significance of this moment settled heavily within her. What was it he had to say? Would it further complicate matters or catalyze the transformation they sought? As Emily looked up, her determination hardened. Lisa realized the time had finally come. What hidden truths were waiting to unravel once they all confronted the authenticity they sought? The seconds stretched as the atmosphere thickened with imminent reveal. The air buzzed with tension as Ben joined their small table. Lisa watched intently, her heart thumping in her chest at the sight of him, every inch a man ready to take charge of his own narrative. He met Emily's gaze, and the unspoken questions hung in the air. What were the barriers they would face, and would they confront them together? "Hey, I'm glad to find you both here," Ben began, his tone more earnest than she had ever heard. A delightful surge of hope unfurled within her, and she leaned in, bracing for what he would say next. "Emily, I've been thinking about us," he continued, his fingers punctuating his words as he spoke. "I think we need to talk about our wedding, but not just the plans. We need to talk about what it represents and why we're rushing into things without being fully aligned." A collective breath held among them. It was the moment of clarity Lisa had hoped for, yet a fog of uncertainty still surrounded the future. Emily's cheeks flushed, and Lisa could see the fears dance in her eyes. She took Ben's hand instinctively, and a sense of brave vulnerability encased them. "You mean about family expectations?" she asked, her voice soft but edged with courage. "Exactly," Ben replied. "There are so many expectations to uphold, but I'm beginning to wonder what it means for us. Are we marrying to please our families, or because we genuinely want to build a life together?" Lisa couldn't help but smile at Ben's clarity. He had taken the conversation into an authentic realm, demonstrating the growth that had unfolded in him through this journey. It was the echo of the very discussion she'd had with him moments ago, and her heart swelled with pride. "You're right," Emily chimed in, her voice steadier. "The pressure has been overwhelming. It feels like we're getting lost in what everyone else wants and forgetting what we really need from each other." A wave of relief washed over Lisa as she sensed the foundational shift. The facade Emily had respected, the expected behavior of apathy towards authenticity, was crumbling. This moment held a promise. It could guide them deeper into their aspirations, inviting a more profound commitment. Let's reshape the narrative, Ben suggested with a glance toward Lisa. Let's not do a wedding because we should, but because we want to celebrate our love. If it means addressing family expectations, then we'll do it together. I want us to be honest about who we are, the good and the bad. His words ignited a spark not only within Emily, but also within Lisa, who felt a resonance of her own voice as she embraced the foundations of authenticity that her family had once blurred. The room felt charged with purpose, and for the first time, she saw a future built upon vulnerability, love, and shared dreams rather than superficial expectations. Absolutely. I want to support you both, and I'm here to help in any way that you need, Lisa added, her spirit buoyed by their willingness to confront their truths. I've seen how strong you can be as a couple when you face things head-on. With each word, a sense of solid confidence began to coalesce among them. The fears that once tethered their spirits were slowly giving way to a belief in their worth, the importance of honoring their truths. No longer was this simply about a wedding, but about what it meant to love and commit without chains. Then let's do it, Emily smiled, lifting her head as if shedding the weight of the world. Let's embrace the authenticity we want in our relationship. I want us to forge a new tradition together, one built on our values, not those of anyone else. Agreed, Ben said, the warm intensity in his voice mirroring the connection they were forming. From this day forward, let's communicate openly, navigate the pressures together, and redefine what love means for us. In that moment, Lisa felt an overwhelming satisfaction surging through her. The pathway toward understanding was beginning to crystallize before her. Their genuine transformation was palpable, signaling to her that legacy could shift, love could thrive, and principles could stand strong amidst challenges. As they spoke, Lisa recognized not just the courage of the young couple before her, but also her own profound journey, the evolution of a mother learning the true meaning of unconditional love, where the spirit of familial bonds intertwined with the celebration of authenticity. While concerns would remain, and the journey unfolding still laid ahead, a new chapter was emerging, a chapter of possibilities where love was liberated from tradition and became a sanctuary of acceptance. As they finished their conversation, the three of them stood, breathless with anticipation for the future. They had carved a space for their own truths, one that honored the complexities of their legacies without being bound by fear. And so, as they stepped out of that cafe into the sunlit world outside, Lisa carried with her a sense of solid confidence, a recognition of her competence to embrace change, take action, and champion love's authentic path. She had not only facilitated a resolution for Emily and Ben, but had also paved the pathway to a new legacy for herself, one rooted in courageous conversations and the endeavor to truly understand what it meant to love without compromise. Their stories, once segmented by expectations and societal norms, began to weave together, revealing the beauty of overcoming challenges through the power of openness and trust. As Lisa breathed deeply, she vowed to cherish this moment and encourage others to embrace the transformative journey toward authenticity. Now, she understood that both love and legacy lived not in material possessions, but in moments of bravery, growth, and the courage to love sincerely. Your journey begins here. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this conclusion with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more people who need to hear these stories. We value your input. Comment your reactions and theories about how their journey unfolds and the importance of understanding love's true essence. Your engagement makes a difference.